welcome. You should have heard some music playing there at the start. Today's session is all about making the most of Office 365 on the iPad. So we're looking at iPad device features in particular and how they integrate with Office 365. So today's presenters, myself, just navigate to that slide. So my name is Pam Curry. I am a digital transformation specialist at Tablet Academy Scotland, and we're delighted at Tablet Academy Scotland to be partnering with Microsoft Education this year in Scotland as their global training partner, and to deliver a whole host of support to Scottish schools for Microsoft 365 in Glow and out with Glow, but also in terms of the Incubator and Showcase School programme. So we've got a whole host of support planned for you over the next year. We've got a number of events happening this week alone. It's been a very busy time. I'm hoping that my colleague Ian Vosser is going to join us later in the session. He's got a prior commitment just now. If you want to catch up with us on social media, it's Tablet Academy SC, and I am Pam Curry 71, and Mr. Vosser there is at Mr. Vosser, I believe, on Twitter. I'm also joined this afternoon in the chat by two of my other colleagues, and apologies to them for not having a nice slide made with their faces, but we're also joined by Niall Ridgway and Dan Bryceland in the chat. They'll be able to share links, support you, and just provide general support in the chat. So please follow us on Twitter. Please keep in touch. Our email addresses are there as well if you want to jot them down. And if you want to get in touch anytime about planning some bespoke sessions for your school or for your authority, or if you're looking for some support with the Incubator and Showcase School programme. We're here for the entirety of the school year 2021 and into 22, and we're just looking for as much input from users. What you're looking for, what you're after, how can we help you? We're taking a bit of a punt on these first sessions and hoping that you will find them useful. But we really do want to work with local authorities, with schools, with clusters of schools, just to design support around what you need and what you're after. So please get in touch with us if you would like to arrange some of that for your authority or for your school, or pass us on to the appropriate person. Where all of the support is fully funded by Microsoft this year. There's no financial obligation for anyone. We are providing this on their behalf as a support to schools in Scotland and to Glow. So please give us a shout. So just a few bits of housekeeping, no fire alarms, hopefully. You should know where all the toilets are in your own location. It's a strange one moving to all these virtual events, but you know, we've got the technology to make it happen. For these events, we've decided to go no mics and no cams, and we might change that based on your feedback. If you would like to, have cameras and microphones turned on, we felt it protected your privacy having the cameras off since we're recording. And thank you to whoever admitted that person. And so we're not going with cams or mics, but we do have the chat available. Please use the chat for any questions or feedback. And just a little reminder to you, you've probably all been using Teams quite successfully for a number of months now, but just in case you're new to Teams or you've moved to a different authority or something, that little diagram there just shows you how to access the chat. You're looking for the speech bubble. You can raise your hand just to kind of draw attention to that in the chat. Obviously the camera and mic settings aren't really for you at this point, but that little diagram just sums up how to do things. So the main one you're looking for is the speech bubble to access the chat and just ask any questions or respond to our kind of reflective questions that we're going to be sharing. So first off, let's have a little look at the agenda for this afternoon. So We're not going to be looking at any apps in any individual apps in a whole lot of detail. There's obviously a lot to cover when we're looking at the whole Microsoft 365 tool set. So we're not going to have time, even in a 2-hour session, to go into any app in too much detail. But rather, what I'd like to consider today is really how the iPad device and a touch device, in particular with a camera mobile device, using mobile apps, really just brings together the functionality of the cloud software, the Microsoft 365 apps, but with the device functionality as well. So we're looking at things like camera, like inking, and how these can be really, really powerful in a classroom context. So we're developing different workflows, I suppose. And hopefully by the end of the session, you'll learn how this whole system works on a mobile device, using the mobile apps and sometimes the web apps through a browser. And hopefully you'll see real benefits to productivity, to creativity, and to collaboration as we're doing that. We're going to share some tips that we've discovered along the way. There's probably lots that we've still got to learn about the iPad, and iOS 15 has only just come out, so we've been using that in our demos and trying to get our heads around that a little bit as well. So obviously technology changes all the time, and we need to keep up with these developments. So please, in the chat, if there's anything you've spotted, any tips you've got to share, it'd be really useful if you could do that. But yeah, the whole session is about making the most of Office 365 on a mobile device, and in this case, the iPad. So for the first hour, it is a long session this. I'll give you plenty of breaks, I promise. And we are recording, and we are going to make all of these events available on a dedicated web page where you can kind of navigate by app and whatever. So bear in mind that whilst these are all live just now and we've got a full schedule to get through, we are recording them all. They're also going to be on YouTube. You can still redeem your Microsoft Educator badge codes through watching them online. It's worth sharing with colleagues. And we're going to be pulling that all together and promoting that online in the next sort of week or two. So first hour, we are looking at, should I switch my notifications off? We're looking at the general kind of ecosystem on an iPad of the web and the browser and accessing Office 365 that way, and then downloading some mobile apps and looking at how the iOS operating system and the device functionality can really give a different slant on Office 365 because we're bringing together both the device and the apps themselves. So really interesting kind of take on that, and I'm hoping that you'll find it useful. So the first hour, we're just kind of going on the presentation, working through some screenshots and just talking about the whole system and how it works. And then in the kind of second half of the session, we're going to be live demoing. So I've got my iPad connected to the call as well, and we're going to switch over to the iPad. We're going to do some live screen sharing, and we're just going to have a bit of a demo live, all going well. Fingers crossed, everything works. We're live. I'm signed in on 3 different devices here, which is great for peace of mind, but also I'm surrounded by screens, so it's a fun time. So second half, getting into the demos. Remember as well that with all of these sessions, these longer sessions, we are giving you a MEC code, a Microsoft Educator Center code, where you'll be able to redeem that against a badge for taking part. There's a really strong community of Microsoft innovative educators in Scotland and MIE's educator experts. They're delivering a number of these sessions, but it's a really strong community, and we really urge you to take part, to get involved, and to start maybe doing a bit more CPD, CLPL on the Microsoft Educator Center. So before we get started, just a little bit of a chat input for you, please. It'd just be great. It's always difficult when you're planning these sessions to know where everyone's at. So just be really useful just now if we could familiarise ourselves with the chat, and just maybe answer, respond, give us your thoughts on where you are in your iPad / Office 365 journey. Do you use iPad with O365 daily? Do you use iPads with pupils? It would just be smashing if you could share some of that. Obviously, we'll do our best to kind of focus the session based on your feedback at this point. But I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes just to have a think about those questions there. And if you could respond in the chat, that would be wonderful. Any thoughts coming in the chat? Is the chat working?
Chat is working, yep.
Brilliant. Thank you, Niall. I've got
to read them out.
I've got a notification on my screen that's saying it's muted. So I think it may be something I have done. I'm going to unmute and just reset that. So yeah, if you could read them out, Niall, that'd be a huge help for me, because the meeting.
So we've got Mrs. Main has said that we use iPads pretty much every day, but not with Office 365 at the moment too much. So this is going to be the ideal session. We've got briefly used it to learn some of the basics, just how to use the iPad. Absolutely. Mrs. Main's also interested in the collaboration side of things with the iPads. It's something that I've started to do is take screenshots and add those screenshots actually into OneNote and share those with others, with pupils, with my team. So that's maybe something we can talk about, is adding in images and sharing that with that collaboration side. And the last one we've got here is I'm trying to get the school iPads up and running in classes and looking to use Office 365 to its full ability if our internet allows. And that's always the case, isn't it? We use it on laptops mainly just now. So, I mean, that transition over from whether that's a Windows laptop over to using it in the iPads is actually pretty easy once you know how to do it. So I think that's something that Cam can kind of touch on today, and how actually the things that you use on your iPad are very similar to the web version of Word, OneNote, Teams, these kind of things. So once you've seen everything in this session, hopefully that will make everything a wee bit easier for you, and if your internet allows.
Yeah, that'd be great. Guys from our team would be brilliant if you could just keep me advised on the chat. My meeting chat's muted. I'm going to try and unmute it. I am not being successful at the moment. So I'm hoping that will come back online. In the meantime, thank you very much for your feedback and input there. So yeah, as Niall said there, what we're looking at today is really bearing in mind the web version. So, I was the same. I started off my journey with Office 365 and Glow, Microsoft tools in general, on a desktop laptop, used to using them in that context. But the shift to iPad brings some really powerful possibilities. And that's what I'm kind of most interested in today, is, getting your head around the idea that these cloud apps, these web apps that live in the cloud, they live online. The reason they do that is so that we can access them on any device, anywhere, at any time. And that's when the interplay between the laptop and the mobile device becomes really, really powerful. So you can see here this image here just illustrates that perfectly, where we see all the Office app icons on a huge number of different devices. And whilst we're talking about iOS and iPad this evening, you know that other devices, touch devices like Surface and touchscreen Chromebooks will offer a lot of the functionality that we're going to be looking at tonight as well. So as we carry on, cloud-based storage. So I'm sure that many people by now will have heard of the term the cloud. Um, Forgive me if you know I'm preaching to the converted here and telling you things you already know, but I think it's just a really important point for colleagues, for sharing with colleagues, or if you're just new to this and you're looking to build your confidence. It's really important to understand this cloud context. So we're looking at a series of software that used to live on a computer. You'll all remember the days you had to download Office. It came along in, yearly cycles, 3 yearly cycles. It was a big launch event. And everyone had to go and buy discs or the CDs, install it. Then it moved to kind of online downloads. And now what we're seeing from not just Microsoft, but every software developer is a shift into the cloud, and that's really to facilitate that collaboration and sharing, and also that access from any device. So you'll always hear people saying things like, does that live in the sky? And when we're talking about the cloud, we're just talking about remote databases, remote servers. And yes, they probably live in nowhere near as glamorous as the cloud, but a big warehouse somewhere with tons and tons of servers inside them. But really what that's doing is just running this really powerful software on the internet and making it really easy for us to access that content that sits in the cloud from any device, no matter where we are. So you'll remember these days where we stored things on USB pens, and some people I know are still using these. So not that that's telling off, but I'm hoping that by the end of this session you will really be able to see the opportunity to kind of do away with those devices, do away with the USB pens that need to be encrypted to be used on a school computer, and do away with the hard drives that are at risk of dropping and breaking and losing all your important documents. Many of us have made that shift already, but others of us are still using network drives. We're still saving things on our local authority network drives. And of course, that means that we're limited to accessing them either when we're in school or when we're in the office, or via like a VPN or something where we connect in, like Citrix or something to connect in. Now, that is inconvenient, and the benefits of this kind of, I suppose, new way of working are just that we can access all of our things. We're not ever going to advocate for 24-hour working, but actually it could save us a lot of time if we're able to quickly edit, to make those changes. We've all, forgotten to add things in, forgotten to, check our mistakes. We've got mixed up with versions of documents when we're dealing with them, on a computer itself. When they're in the cloud, huge benefits. We can share them with anyone. We can pull down the latest version, access it from anywhere at any time. And so these are the kind of benefits that we really need to, I suppose, reinforce with colleagues. And I really like this image, just to illustrate that point a little further. You can see there that, as teachers, we're now able to access our lesson plans from our phones. We're able to, send a Teams assignment from our iPad as we remember it, because we're watching something on Netflix and it inspires us. This is now has the potential to transform the way we work. It might not be a great experience to, join a Teams call on your Apple Watch or, smartwatch, but you never know. I think the person on the bike who seems to be like editing a PowerPoint or something there could be a bit risky. Don't know if we would recommend editing your PowerPoint whilst cycling, but it's a nice image all the same. So as we move forward, let's just think about the iPad in particular. The whole session is going to focus on iPad, Many of you will be working in local authorities where you're lucky enough to have one-to-one devices. Many local authorities, you've got some big authorities like Glasgow and Borders and Falkirk, rolling out iPads as the one-to-one device for young people and staff. And of course alongside that, Microsoft Office 365 in Glow, because of the single sign-on and the national tenancy where we can work across Scotland, that becomes a really powerful solution. So the focus on today's session is just to look at the features that are unique to Office 365 on an iPad, to look at the experience that offers and the benefits that can bring to you as an educator and to your classroom workflow. And of course, ultimately, that means those benefits are coming to your pupils, and that's what we're all here for, isn't it? We're going to summarise in the next few slides what we're talking about when we're thinking about these unique features. So I want to just summarise these. I think there's kind of three biggies for me, and we will mention other things, but in terms of the iPad and working with Office 365, there's kind of three big moments for me in terms of that workflow. And the first one is the integration of the camera and all that comes with the camera. So the ability to take photos, the ability to record yourself, switch the camera, record yourself, take a selfie, might have benefits. It certainly has benefits if you wish to talk to your pupils directly. Gives you a really easy way to record a quick video and then use the collaboration features in Office 365 to distribute that, share it with either colleagues or your class direct through Teams or, in shared OneDrive folders. So it's that camera bit for me that's really, really powerful. And it's what you don't get so much on a desktop. Now, yes, you can still share images into these apps from a laptop or a desktop, but because of the way the camera works, you can't do that kind of opening up the camera, taking a picture, taking a selfie. That's not so powerful. So I think that's one of the real main benefits of the iPad, and it's great to hear that some of you are kind of experimenting with that already, screenshots. I've done a lot today in this session. I had a brilliant little workflow going on last night where I was screen recording using the iPad's native screen recorder. I was struggling to get them to play as videos in PowerPoint Presenter, so I had to quickly turn them into a GIF. Used Canva for that, which is also integrated into Microsoft Teams. That gave me a really easy way to create a GIF, and the GIFs will play brilliantly in PowerPoint Presenter, which is what I'm using today. So if you're looking to do something like that, screen recording, make it into a GIF, turn it into a PowerPoint, bring it into a PowerPoint, becomes a really powerful tool. And that was just a discovery that I made along the way towards delivering this session. So camera and photos, very, very powerful workflow. I think what we do natively, if you think about it, with our mobile phones, we are forever using that functionality. And it's really, taking selfies, sharing them to Facebook, making TikTok videos. Anyone do that? It's, lots of people do. It's that kind of integration between your device's features, like the camera, and the ability to take video and selfie video, and then the ability to share that in your work, in your classroom work, to your pupils. So it's taking that thing that we're used to doing socially and then starting to do it as an educator, creating and sharing images and videos with colleagues and classes. One of the huge benefits that we're going to look at today. So I said there were three. The second of these huge benefits that I see and that I've been really playing around with over the last little while is inking. So if you don't know what inking is, it's basically the ability to draw on top of digital documents, photographs, screenshots. And this is, again, a really, really powerful benefit of the iPad when using Office 365. So obviously any touch device, we're not limiting this to the iPad. The Surface is equally brilliant at dealing with this kind of task. More and more touch devices coming. I know there's loads of Chromebooks coming this year that have got touch and cameras. So there's a new kind of shift, I think, where the mobile device and the laptop are kind of becoming closer together, perhaps, in functionality. And another thing we're going to look at on the iPad is the kind of split screen functionality that's just come out in the latest iOS release. So yeah, there's a kind of a productivity focus, I think. I think everyone in the app development world is focused on productivity and making things easier for us. So things that maybe a year or two ago might have been really difficult have now become really easy. I've got an Apple Pencil with my iPad, which is just fantastic for marking up work, marking up documents, very quickly making sketches. When you think about inking, the ability to very quickly, with your finger even, or with an Apple Pencil, just, if you're a maths teacher, write some maths. If if you need to show the water cycle or photosynthesis, to quickly, I don't know how good your art is, mine might not be that great, but you could really quickly sketch a little diagram together with inking, change the colours. I'm sure some of you will be amazingly creative with this. But, do those diagrams really quickly. Because I think, well, how would I have done that? How would I do that? You would maybe do it on paper, take a photograph, put it somewhere. Great workflow, still works. But this ability to just edit things with a digital pen, ink onto a Word document, ink onto, something you've scanned and through Lens and brought into your iPad, it is super, super powerful. And it's a great way to give feedback to learners. But most importantly, I think in this point is the speed. So yes, you could make diagrams, beautiful diagrams in, apps like Canva or, Adobe Illustrator if you want to be really fancy. You could do those designs there, but it'd take a long time. You'd have to build it, you'd probably be really careful and fussy about your pixels and alignments, and maybe just sketching a quick drawing, sharing it with your class team. You could turn it into a little screen recording, add your voice, really powerful. So inking for me is another huge benefit. And we're going to look a fair bit in the session about how that becomes available across these different apps. And the third one, and I've already touched on it, is Office Lens. So Office Lens has been around for a little while now. But what we're finding, and this is for me the most interesting bit, is that ability that Office Lens provides. So if you don't know what Office Lens is, it's the ability, it offers you the chance to pick up your phone or your iPad and scan a paper document. And then it will turn that paper document into a digital image. We're going to look at this in more detail live on the iPad later in the session. But really powerful, you take something analog, something, a piece of paper, because we're not suggesting that we're in the digital world all the time. There is still a role for paper. There's still a role for, flip chart boards and whiteboards on walls and post-it notes. But being able to take those and being able to keep them and share them, use them for evidence, share them with your class. You need to have them in a digital format to do that. So Office Lens is superb at dealing with that. You've got a scanner with you all the time, essentially. And you can scan documents, you can scan whiteboards. If you meet someone at a conference, scan their business card. And you'll have a digital asset there that you can then, one of the things that kind of really startled me was that you could take, a magazine page, we're going to show this later on in the session, scan it in Office Lens, it goes digital, so the text then becomes digital text that you can then play back in Immersive Reader. It's incredible, and it's something that's really, really exciting when we think about this whole workflow of the classroom, because, we're not fully digital yet, and maybe, perhaps we don't ever want to be. We always need paper and sketches, and it really helps with our cognitive thought processes and learning process. So having those analog pieces, but being able to translate them and share them really easily in a digital format is just hugely, hugely powerful. Also the ability to share things with other people. So yeah, that's, for me, those are the three biggies. I'll just go through them again. The camera and photos, inking, digital inking, and lens and the ability to scan and digitize things. So at this point, what we're going to talk about now is how we access Office 365, Microsoft 365 on the iPad. And I'm afraid the answer is not entirely straightforward, because there are different ways, like so many things. I mean, this is the same in kind of web design and in anything we do digitally. We find that there are multiple different ways to do the same thing. And with the iPad and Microsoft 365, that is very true. But it doesn't need to be a bad thing. It just needs to be something that we understand and that we're able to tell colleagues about and to help them understand. I think in terms of access, the bottom line, the kind of main point I'd like to make about iPad is that if a mobile app exists, then it's the right way to access Office 365. And the reason for that is that the mobile app will have been made with mobile in mind. And that means, so I don't know if you've done any app development or looked at app development, but one of the, if you look into app development platforms, what is very much part of the whole process of app development is interacting with the functionality of the device. So sending push notifications, accessing, cameras, opening up the video player. These functions only exist on mobile devices. And again, I keep, making this point really clear, but I think it's a really important point. That's when the magic really happens for me. When you take the kind of functionality of the mobile device and the real benefits of it, like camera, ability to scan, that's when the real magic happens. And so the message is, not every Microsoft 365 app, and when I say app, I mean, piece of the toolkit, app that you'd find in your waffle online, app in the whole suite of tools. So not every one of those apps has an iOS app. And that's just something we have to learn. Things are becoming easier. So more of the apps now have iOS apps, dedicated iOS apps, but not every one of them. But remember, this is a cloud-based service. The iPad comes with Safari as its standard browser. Many of you will have Chrome. I would really recommend for Microsoft, I'd recommend the Edge browser. Lets you sign in with your Glow account, lets you save passwords in the browser, lets you, access Immersive Reader, share your bookmarks and sync them on different devices. So I'd recommend Edge as your iPad browser of choice, I think, for working with 365. But because it's in the browser, that means, of course, that you can access everything just through the web browser. Now, that comes with benefits when you think about it, because you're only having to sign in once. So your process on the iPad then would be to go to Safari or Edge or Chrome, whatever browser you've got, and then just to sign into Glow, so maybe to go to the RM Unified Glow login, or just to, go to search and just search Office 365 login. And at that point, you sign in with your Glow account. You'll get taken through RM Unify, of course. If you're using Glow, I understand people on the call might not be using Glow. You could have your own tenancy in your school or local authority. For the most part, I think in Scotland we will be using Glow. So I'll make a lot of references to Glow as we go through. So yeah, you could just sign in online. And when you do, you will find that many of the apps will work just as they do on a laptop. In fact, some of them work slightly better. So some of even the mobile views have started to integrate mobile devices. More on that later. I'm talking mainly about Sway. But the great thing is that you sign in once and then you've got the same access through the waffle in the top left-hand side, or through the drop down menu on the left there, you can navigate all the apps there. Some of them will work great. Some of them will work better in an app. The good thing is, in an iOS app, the good thing is that you will be prompted if there is an app available. So this might be actually a good way to start, to go to the browser, to log into Office 365, as you would on a laptop, online, office.com, log in there. If you do that, then if it won't work on the web browser, Teams doesn't. If it won't work on the web browser, then it will tell you, and it will say download the app, and it will take you to the App Store to download. Caveat: remember, different local authorities have got different ways of getting apps. So yeah, in terms of a kind of personal device, you would be taken to the App Store, you would download the app, and then you're away. You're using the iOS app. So I think there's a notification for you. I forgot about this slide. There's a notification for you. So this was me accessing on the iPad PowerPoint, and you can see that at the top there's a little notification that says get one app for Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, and then there's the link to download it in the iOS App Store. So that's an example of a prompt. Works fine. You could use PowerPoint just like that, but actually you're going to get increased functionality and better functionality for the iPad if you use the mobile app. More on Office later. So you do get individual apps, but we'll talk about Office just in a bit. So that's an example of that kind of notification. I mentioned earlier, Teams doesn't work in the browser. You need the app. If you've found that it works in the browser on an iPad somehow, maybe something I'm doing wrong, but I tried 3 different browsers, wouldn't work in any. So the conclusion I came to was that Teams will only work in the mobile app. So you'll be prompted. Again, there's no, you can't really go wrong. If you go to Teams through the browser, you'll be given this message saying, uh-oh, this doesn't work. And you'll be prompted to download the app. Again, just bear in mind that different schools, different local authorities will have different processes for app deployment and management. So, you obviously have to bear that in mind. However, it will force you. There's nothing to fear here if you go through the web browser first. You will be prompted and you will be supported. And I didn't find any issues with that in the testing that I did to prepare for this session. So when we're talking about the browser, this is what you see. It's very similar. This is me just accessing the browser version of Office 365, like I would on a desktop computer in school or a laptop. This is what you see, and you've got the familiar waffle. You've got the drop down there, and you can navigate through all the apps, and that will work fine on the browser on an iPad. I've got one other screenshot for you here just to show you the experience, illustrate this point a bit more, mobile first. And I think this is a really interesting one, actually, because look at what the notification says there. So this is me in OneDrive. I was in OneDrive. I was online using the iPad, using Edge browser, I believe. And OneDrive would have worked fine. It was there. It would have worked great. However, I'm getting a warning. Well, not a warning. I'm getting a recommendation, I suppose, a prompt. And it says we've got an app for this, but look at what it points out. Offline access for files and folders. You're not going to get that on the browser. You can scan any receipt, document, or whiteboard. You're not going to get that on the browser because it needs a camera. It needs the mobile app. And highlight and markup, and that's when we're talking about inking. So these 3 things that we've already highlighted as being a kind of core focus for today's session, being brought to our attention there, highlighted, flagged up with the prompt. So I think, you're in safe hands here. If there is a better experience to be had using an app, Microsoft's going to tell you. There will be a notification in the online browser-based app experience that says, look, you're using an iPad. We've got a better app for you. Download it here. So I think that in the first half of the session is a really good kind of point, just to pause for a minute, just to summarise, maybe take some more kind of feedback and questions, and just have a think about everything that we've gone over and everything that we've learned there that we can share with colleagues and take forward into our own practice about accessing Office 365 on the iPad. So let's have a wee think about all of these things. So as we go forward, a couple of main learnings for us. Microsoft Office 365 is a cloud hub. It's based in the cloud, lives on the cloud. Everything is stored remotely so that we can access it from any device at any time, regardless of the operating system, regardless, of the time difference. It's live and it's in real time, and it's there for us to sign into wherever we are on whatever device. Another key learning for me is that we can sign in anytime, anywhere. So that's a big important point. And just as we touched on in the last sort of 10, 15 minutes, Office 365, you can get to it in the web browser. Remember, on an iPad, that'll be Safari. It could be Chrome. We'd really recommend Edge, again, just because you can sign in with your Microsoft account and work between Edge browsers. I don't know if some of you might do that in your personal life, saving bank details and passwords and all that. It's very, very secure. There's no risk to you in doing that. So, well, the risk is your password and how safe you keep that. But yeah, it's a great experience to access through Edge in general. But you can use much of Office 365 in the browser, and it could be a good starting point because of that prompting that it does. But another key learning, just to summarise, is that the waffle apps, those Microsoft 365 tools, are better experienced in the mobile app. And the next half of the session really is going to be starting to look in a little bit more detail about how that all works and how we can take advantage of functions like, touch and camera. I'm going to just pause here before we start to go into the next half of the session. And I'd just like to share with you in the chat, if I can. I'm just going to grab a URL. So we're just going to grab a URL. We've got a little bit of a mentee going on today, if you've ever used mentee before, just to gather some feedback. And I'm just going to share that just now in the chat. Hopefully you can all see that. Okay. So it'd be great just for you to, can someone confirm that you can see that? Okay, Danny, you there still?
Yeah, we can access that.
Brilliant, thank you very much. I was having issues with my chat, so yeah, just be great at this point before we carry on, just to see how confident you guys feel about using Microsoft products on iPad. And maybe this session so far has already helped you. It'd be great to think that it had, and hopefully by the end of the session, you might feel a little bit more confident with it. So if you could fill in that mentee, there's a few straightforward questions, just to gather your kind of where you're at, help us and get some data around that, and just see where everyone is in terms of confidence. So give you a few minutes just to do that. I'm going to grab a wee drink. I would suggest that you do too. So great, brilliant feedback there coming in. That's superb. So how people would rate the statements in general. I think 6.4 people found that it was, you do feel confident using a personal device, but interestingly, not so confident using a school iPad. And yeah, I can totally understand and empathise with that, because, different authorities have different ways of deploying apps. I've been there and felt the kind of, you know, it can be frustrating at times as an educator not to have that control that you have with your own personal device. So I totally empathise with your feedback there. I think it's a really important point, and I'm hoping that, you know, as local authorities become more used to deploying these devices and using the kind of mobile device management systems, and that they become more sophisticated, I'm hoping that that experience will become better. Not so many of you, again, a little bit of a dip in confidence when it comes to using Microsoft products. So that's brilliant feedback. Thank you so much for that. It's a really nice moment just to kind of pause, take a breath, grab a drink, grab a cup of tea if you've got time, before we kind of crack on with the next part of the session. So thank you very much for your feedback there. Okay, so as we move on, here I'm sharing a screenshot of my iPad. I do apologise for these notifications. A screenshot of my iPad with a collection of the mobile apps. Now, I don't actually think that I've got them all. I think I missed Microsoft Stream, and there might be another couple. There's ways of, you know, like managing Office 365 that you can get an app for that. So I've not got them all, but I think I've covered there most of the biggies. So basically what I've done there is I've included most of the apps on my home screen. That's all you see there. So they are only Microsoft apps. You don't see any of the native iPad apps or anything on there. That screenshot is only showing you the Microsoft apps that are iOS apps. They are dedicated apps. They've been downloaded from the App Store. It is a dedicated iOS experience that you're going to get with those mobile apps. Remember I said that if you access on the web, you'll get a prompt to download them. Hopefully you'll be able to do that. You'll certainly be able to do it on a personal device. You might already have them preloaded on an authority device. But I think it's also good in terms of local authority deployments and apps. It's good for you to maybe try these out on a personal device, try them on your phone, try them you know, on a personal iPad, and then maybe you can influence what is made available to everyone in the local authority. Because I'm sure there's a process for that in most of your schools and local authorities to request apps. So, you know, there's new things coming along all the time. And one of the ones, I've not got it in that screenshot, Planner. Planner is an app that, see, from a business point of view, so I run my own business, Planner is basically an amazing way of managing projects and to-do lists and managing your work. It's not one of the core ones we think of when we think about education and you know, Office 365, but it comes with Office 365. If any of you have used Trello to manage projects, I know some colleagues in schools have done, it's very similar to Trello. You create Kanban boards, essentially, if you know Kanban and project management, you know, kind of to do, doing and done. And you can, you know, tag people in tasks and add images. Super powerful tool, but it might not be in your standard deployment. You might want to play around with it, discover how good it is. Could help you massively in planning projects or just in general managing your work and working on joint projects with colleagues. So yeah, it could be, I would recommend getting to know the apps if you can on a personal device, to see what they're capable of. You'll always be able to sign in with your Microsoft account, your Glow account. So you'll always be able to see what is available in Glow or in your tenancy. When I say tenancy, that's your version of Office 365 for your school, for your local authority. Most schools using Glow, but not everyone. So just be aware of that. One of the big ones that doesn't have a mobile app is Sway. So there's no mobile app for Sway. However, the web version of Sway is really good, and we're going to look at that just in a little bit. And it does include some mobile functions as well. So, you know, things like camera, all that good stuff. So more on that later. But I'd recommend playing around with the mobile apps. And in doing that, there's a handy little kind of tip in the next section. You can just go to the App Store or whatever download system your LA uses, and you can probably search for apps and you can probably download them. So this is a screenshot from the actual iOS Apple App Store, and all I did was search Microsoft, and it gave me all of the apps that are developed by Microsoft, and therefore will work predominantly with my Office 365 account. But again, just beware of what's there. Check it out on other devices. Check out what's available. Get into the Educator Centre and join the communities and find out what other people are using. So you will have seen, let's just go back to that screenshot for a little second, because I want to just point out to you something quite interesting for the next 10 minutes. We're going to look into this fairly recent development. So you'll see on that screenshot that we have an app for Word, we have an app for PowerPoint, we have an app for Excel, and we have one for OneDrive. And it used to be the case that you needed all those individual apps. But fairly recently, I can't remember exactly when, 2019, maybe 20, Microsoft released a kind of hybrid app. I don't know, is that even a thing, a hybrid app? But they've released a new app called Office. And in some ways, that's not that difficult to get your head around, is it? So, you know, Office as an app. We always used to buy Office as a big pile of CD-ROMs. And that came with PowerPoint, Excel, Word, and that was part of the package. And in a way, this app is the same. It's one app for all of those Office packages. But in this case, remember, they are mobile app packages. They're designed for your mobile device. But you can access them all in one way, through one account, just sign into Office. So you need to, this for me is probably the biggie, Teams, but the Office app, if you're only going to get one app for Office 365 on iPad, you want it to be the Office app, because from there you can do many of the things that you used to need several apps to do. And on, you know, on the online version, on the browser version, you'd have to jump between the apps through the waffle. But this gives you a brilliant productivity boost by giving you one app to sign into and to use to create Word documents, Excel documents, PowerPoints, and to share those with people in your class, in your organisation. So cannot recommend Office app, one app for iOS highly enough. You'll see there in the screenshots that it is powerful. So basically, again, this little image summing it up nicely for us. Word, Excel and PowerPoint and OneDrive essentially in the one app. So this has been a fairly recent development, and it's just giving you that cloud access through one mobile iOS app. So this is how it's kind of summed up. It's all about productivity. So, you know, it's your go-to productivity app. When you think about productivity, you've got one place to go, one button to press, and you can choose whether you want to create a PowerPoint in Excel, you know, share something in OneDrive, take a photo, add it. It's really quick. And it's that kind of workflow that I'm most interested in, I think, in terms of this whole ongoing development of iOS with Office 365. So yeah, it's uniquely mobile. So it brings in those mobile experiences that we keep referring to. And it takes those kind of common tasks like, you know, creating and signing PDFs, like just even signing a PDF. Think how hard that would have been on a laptop. Tricky task. I've done things in the past like write on paper, take a photo up. This is just so easy. Draw on the screen, sign, mark up, you know, create sticky notes, share them. It's these kind of mobile workflows that all come into one app. And let's just have a little look now about how that all works in terms of accounts. So, with all the mobile apps that we're going to look at today, the key thing is, and it's a bit of a pain the first time you have to do it, but you do need to sign into them all individually. You can't just like sign into the iPad in the lobby. You have to sign in individually to each app. But you do that and you're in. and yes, you might have to refresh that every so often, but generally you sign in, you're in, you've got access to everything. So we need to sign in and tie our personal or work content from the cloud to that app. So the app won't know all we're doing is downloading an application. It doesn't know that it's us that's done it. It doesn't know that it's our account, it's our OneDrive. We have to tell it that. We have to input our username and password, and we have to sign in to the individual app. There's a huge plus point though, and that is that you can switch between accounts. It's beautiful. So you sign in, but you can add another account and you can kind of jump between them. We're going to spend a few minutes now just looking at that functionality, looking at how that works, and how the whole account process works. So obviously, this slide here just shows you, how you would have done that. In the browser, you can still, of course, go to the browser. You can still sign in there, click on the log on, go to office.com, sign in. You can do that. But in the apps themselves, what we're going to do now is just have a little look at, how that sign-in process works. So the screenshot you've got there is from Office, the Office app. Remember, for Glow users, if you're a Glow user and your Microsoft account in Glow will usually earn end@glow.sch.uk. Might vary. Some of you might have Glow Mail, might vary a little bit, but generally that's how it's going to end. That's your Microsoft account, remember. So that's the email address you're going to use to sign in, and your password is your Glow password. That's if you're using Glow. If you're not using Glow, you'll know your username and password. It's the one main thing you need to know. So let's just have a little look through this GIF. So in this GIF, we're opening up the Office app and we're adding in our Glow, my Glow username, CL Pam Curry, if you want to connect on Glow, at glow.sch.uk. We're signing in. Next thing, we're taken to RM Unify, of course, because we have to authenticate through Glow. I mean, I know it can be frustrating. You've got to do that, kind of put your name in twice, but if you tick remember me, I'll remember you. It's the benefits of having one username and password to access so many different things, huge. So not that annoying to sign in using your Glow username and password. But there we are, putting it in. And as we go to the next slide, you'll see RM Unify opening up, put the password in there, and we're able to authenticate in through RM Unify and come back to the app. That's worked seamlessly for me in testing. It's worked brilliantly. And you can see there that that's us all set and we're ready to start creating. So one thing that's really good that I mentioned already there is that we can have multiple accounts. So I don't know if you guys have multiple accounts. You might have a private Hotmail. You could have that on your device as well. I have multiple different Office 365 accounts. So I have a Tablet Academy one and I have my Glow account. So I'm going to just show you how that all works. So here we have a screenshot of my account. This is my Glow account. So you'll see on the, if we draw your attention here to the left-hand side menu, you'll see that I've got my username and profile picture at the top. If you haven't set a profile picture, I'd really recommend that you do. Just helps you identify your different accounts, and it's especially useful on these mobile devices. So that's my Glow account. You can see that it is ticked. But underneath, if we go to where it says accounts and organisations, which is slightly further down that left column, you'll notice there that Glow Scotland is highlighted. So I'm in with my Glow account. But underneath that, you can see Tablet Academy Limited, and I've got a little notification there I've missed. Not good enough, Pam. And then you can see that I've also got a Microsoft guest account. And that's because we are accessing, because we're working with Microsoft, we're accessing their Microsoft tenancy, and we're able to kind of jump and switch between them. So that's really, really useful. And again, I've tested it with different accounts, seems to work fine. I don't know what the limit is actually. Does anyone know if there's a limit to how many accounts interesting one for the Googlers or the Edgers. I'll just skip on. As we look to the next slide, you'll see that I'm in a different account. This is me and my, this is Teams, by the way. This should have mentioned that. This is Microsoft Teams we're using here to show you, and I'm in dark mode. Yeah, it was night time when I was doing it, went to dark mode. So that's why it's black. So in this Teams screenshot here, you'll see I'm in Glow. But then if I go to the next screenshot, I'm still in Teams, but I'm in a quieter team. I've not got that much going on there. And then I go to my really busy team, my Tablet Academy one, and I was able just to switch between those really easily, one click, and I'm away. So really good experience doing that, really seamless, and you're able to access all your team's stuff, all your assignments, all your calendars, all your chats, just like within seconds. And I've not even got one of those fancy expensive iPads with the really fast chips. So yeah, I found it really seamless just jumping between all the different user accounts. Where are we at? Oh, we've got a little GIF going on here just showing you that. I'm just going to leave that playing. So you see there just jumping up around those different accounts and how that all works. And it, like that GIF was how quickly it did it. Look how quickly it's loading. I mean, it's a little bit of a pause, but it's super quick. Just to go between those accounts there. So yeah, switching between accounts. That example there was Teams, but you can do this in any of the apps. You can switch between accounts really easily. So you can, jump between OneNote accounts, and in your email, you've got your multiple accounts in there as well, where you're seeing everything in Outlook in the one place. So productivity, switch between accounts, really useful. In here now, in this GIF, we're in OneDrive, same deal. We're switching accounts, works in a slightly different way. So let's just look, you've got the 3 in a row at the top there, see? And then the middle one, and then we can add another account there as well. So you'll see that's the OneDrive experience of switching accounts. And remember, you will have to sign into those accounts individually. In that screenshot there, that little GIF, you'll see the plus button. So look at the plus, there it is. Plus button, add an account, username, password, sign in, and then you're there. You can just switch between them. So one of the really big messages, I think, for me that comes with all of this is that we're having productivities increasing for us, because this, integration of all these Office apps into the one Office app is helping us more quickly, more easily, and more simply just work between different apps and share things, create things really, really quickly, collaborate with colleagues really, really quickly. And I'd say that's a big kind of productivity boost. Just speeds things up for us and makes creativity and collaboration easy. And do you know what? It's one of the major benefits of Ian.
Hi Pam, how you doing?
Oh, Ian, how are you?
Yeah, really pleased. Great to see your sessions underway already. I will pitch in, and I apologise. I'm even later than I promised.
That is all right. Things have been going well. We've not even got to the live demo section yet.
Oh.
So we're going to just take a pause in a little minute. What we've got going on here is another little productivity boost. So I've been talking about productivity boosts, and I just kind of made that term up. I don't know if anybody else has ever used it. It seemed to make sense to me. A little boost to our productivity. So another thing that's relatively new discovery for me, you may have discovered this already, but there's this feature on the iPad that is quite a new discovery for me, that if you're on the home screen, remember you used to press and hold and you could edit your apps. Let's call it a long press. We're calling it a long press. So brilliant little feature that if you do a long press and hold, not quite long enough to edit your home screen, by the way. If you get that wiggly jiggly little app dancing thing going on, you've pressed for too long. But what you're finding is this quick actions menu that drops down from the app icon and brings another productivity boost. So there it is in Teams. You can see it there. You could very quickly launch a new call, launch a new chat. You could quickly check your team's activity. You don't need to open it up. You just do the long press and the little menu pops out. And I think what we can see now is that in Outlook. So this is the Outlook long press. I'm calling it a long press. I'm sure there's a more appropriate terminology for it. But it just brings this little drop down quick action menu, we'll call it, where you can perform, quick actions, productivity boosts. Long press on Outlook, create a new email, create a new event, view your calendar. Really handy little feature that for me was a relatively recent discovery, putting my hands up here. But we're switching between different operating systems and devices, and that for me is a discovery I made fairly recently that I liked.
Your long press, Pam. Some people call it a press and hold, but I think long press sounds better.
Press and hold, Ian. That's it.
So it's just one of the many gestures you can do on the iPad.
Absolutely. So the press and hold for me was a handy little one. Ian, have you got any other gestures you'd like to share?
Well, I quite like the pinching gestures. They're certainly for jumping around the iPad, and also being able to 3-finger swipe up from the bottom as well. That's really handy as well. And of course, you've got your keyboard open. You maybe don't want your keyboard open there. You can also swipe that down as well, or hit the little bus in the bottom right-hand corner. But I would certainly say with any gesture-based learning on the iPad, it's very much just a case of giving it a go. And like you said, if I press and hold for too long, then I'm going to end up with the jiggly menu if I've got the app. So I now know what that does. And you can't really break anything on these devices these days. They're really resilient and robust. So they're designed for users to crack on and have a go with. So absolutely, different apps will have slightly different gestures as well. So talking of apps, I see you've got a great one there up on the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. So a big theme, Ian, for the session today has been about blending the kind of functionality of the device with the Office 365 apps themselves. And I think there's few better illustrations of that than Office Lens. And again, I'm fairly new to the party when it comes to using Office Lens on an iPad, but that ability to just kind of take the analog world and digitize it really easily is just so powerful. And I think it probably really fits with where many of us are at in our digital journey, because I'm not saying we're always going to give up on we're never going to give up on paper and analog. We're always going to need that. But I think we've probably maybe got more of it going on at the moment than we might have, say, in a year or two's time. So for where we are just now, scanning paper documents, taking scans of jotters if we're using jotters, and then digitizing them for evidence, or, if it's someone you meet at a conference and you digitize their business card to get in touch with them later. There's real benefits here to, we do things in the office all the time where we scribble on whiteboards and we just scribble and we get the whiteboard pens out and it looks all colourful, and just quickly scanning that, putting it into a digital format, sharing it where you do your work is, for me, just one of the most exciting things about this blend of the device with the apps.
And that Lens app is incredibly resilient as well, in terms of, do you need to have the document completely flat, lined up with the camera perfectly positioned above it? No, you don't. You can snap it, and then with the crop tool and the AI that's built into it, it will straighten it up for you and neaten it. So when you've got young people building portfolios of work, or they're wanting to be able to add that into their OneNote so they can show in their class notebook the work they've been doing offline, I think building that up is just really, really, really fantastic. And I'm a big fan of digital technology, and I think everyone knows that I'm keen, if we can use a digital solution, then we should be using a digital solution. But I'm also incredibly mindful that those handwriting skills are incredibly important. Those offline skills of doing things creatively, painting based activities, for example, there are digital alternatives, but there is still something nice about doing that physical activity. So being able to capture that afterwards, to be able to share it to a wider audience, really, really important. Really, really.
and lots of evidence, university-backed research about the kind of cognitive process that goes along with handwriting and developing thoughts in a kind of touch way. I mean, whether that is with an Apple Pencil or a similar stylus, or whether it's on paper, really, really powerful. And one thing that I really want to show people that's kind of blown my mind in terms of the kind of artificial intelligence aspect of Lens, but the ability to just scan a piece of paper and then have it play it back to you in Immersive Reader. Unbelievable. So yeah, I'm really excited to show people that, and I'm aware that our time is marching. One thing I wanted to do, just quickly take a little pause again, just get some input in the chat. Any productivity hacks, any gesture swipes, what have you found with iPad and with Office 365 that's really helped boost your productivity? Food for thought is, and again, just flagging this up, in iOS 15, this screenshot here shows you how you can have side-by-side super easily. You've got 3 dots there at the top of the app screen. It's hard to notice, they're right in the middle of the screen at the top. 3 dots, click on them, and you've got side-by-side in many apps. It's super powerful. And it just makes that, again, productivity. It's everywhere. It's integrated now, and it's there at touch of a button. It's kind of omnipresent in iOS 15 in a way that it wasn't before. It was still there. You could still do it, but it just wasn't so available. And in the latest update, and I've only just rolled out the latest update. Well, Apple's only just rolled out. I've not done it. But I've only installed it in the last few days, but I think it's only been released in the last few days as well. So yeah, side-by-side productivity, having Excel up and Word up, having, different apps open side-by-side, something we've been used to on, desktops and laptops, but coming to mobile devices now really useful as well.
Dan said in the chat there that he really likes, in terms of the gestures, he really likes having holding the screen record button, which you'll find up in your action center in the top right. Being able to press and hold that lets you record your screen with audio, which is so awesome if you're creating a little demonstration for your classes. You want to record how something's done, and then you can share that obviously in your files section on Teams later. I mean, I've got all my notifications pop up on my iPad. I like to just occasionally tap the screen just to see all the bits that have popped up and do a bit of swiping on my notification center. I think that wake to unlock is really good. And I also like being able to view that dock along the bottom. Some people can hide their dock, and you can have it so it swipes up. So that's cool to do as well.
Thank you for that. I'm not actually seeing the chat. My chat seems to be muted, and I've failed it in my attempts to unmute it. So
I'll keep my eyes open for it.
Eye on the chat, Ian, that would be marvellous. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just take a little pause for a minute. Thanks very much for your feedback on this. A big part of the work that we're doing with Microsoft, it gives you a chance to earn some recognition for taking part. So every one of these sessions that we're doing gives you the chance to redeem a code on the Microsoft Educator Center. So if you look at this screenshot here, this is a screenshot from the Microsoft Educator Center. It's education.microsoft.com. I will just ping that into the chat if someone hasn't beaten me to it.
I've beaten you to it, Pam. So.
Yeah, I knew you would. I'd be disappointed if you hadn't. Thank you. So Ian's popped the link there into the chat. It's education.microsoft.com. And the code for today's session is in the next slide. So
also in the chat.
Also in the chat. Thank you, Ian. So a copy and a paste. Much easier than typing that out from the screen. Thank you very much. So again, quick demo. What we'll do is I'm just going to stop presenting this slideshow for a second. I'm just going to jump into sharing my screen now, and we're going to take a little look at. Hold on, I'm just going to share my whole screen. Okay, so just going to give you a little demo of the Microsoft Educator Center and how you might redeem said codes. So are you seeing all that now? Yes, you are.
Yes.
So we're on education.microsoft.com. I'm signed in, and you'll notice there's my cheeky little picture. If I click on that, I get a little drop-down menu, and I'm invited to redeem an achievement code. Can I redeem an achievement code for my own session? Bet you I can, eh?
You probably can. I won't tell anyone.
So what we're going to do here then, let me just, I've not got the code there. Where did I put the code?
It is in the chat, but I'll shout it out for you if you want. So it's T-NRE 862321. Did I go too fast?
82321.
Nice.
Does it need to be uppercase? No, it's okay being lowercase. We're about to find out.
That is tickety-boo.
So I've redeemed my own training badge. I mean, I deserve one for, I suppose, delivering the session. I mean, I've had to learn it all. So yeah, just a little overview before we crack on. What is the Microsoft Educator Center? You may hear people calling it the MEC. It's an abbreviation that is very commonly used, the MEC. A MEC code. That was a MEC code you just got there. So remember, hover over your name, click redeem achievement code, pop the code in. But there's loads of great stuff here. So, you know, loads of training opportunities. There's tons of lesson ideas in there. And there's a really strong community in Scotland of Microsoft innovative educators and educator experts who would gladly welcome you into the fold. Really active on Twitter, but loads of different training programs here. Full-on learner pathways, full-on courses where you can earn more badges, and then lesson plans there for Minecraft and STEM, also really useful. So just a quick shout out to the MEC, the Microsoft Educator Centre. I just wanted to share that with you before we kind of move on with the session, which is not where I was there. So I think, let me just check. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we're going to go back to the presentation. So we've got Ian up on the screen just now looking handsome.
Thanks.
So hopefully the PowerPoint will load up for us nice and quickly. Fantastic. And we'll just jump ahead to slide 99 or wherever we were.
I think it was 51, Pam.
Was it really? Ian, you're so good at remembering these things.
Nice.
That's just a step above what I would expect from my co-pilot. I love it. Thank you. So flashing up the code again. Hopefully you've all managed to redeem that. And what we're going to go on now to do is turn my notifications off. What we're going on now to do is just to do some live demos of some of these things that we've spoken about on the iPad. So wish me luck. Do not like.
You're going to smash it.
Switch into a different account, and yeah, we're going for it. So got a little bit of an agenda to follow. Just to show you what we're going to cover. So first off, we're going to have a look at Lens. So hopefully you've seen that. Yes, you are. Going to have a look at Lens and the integration of Lens with the other apps, which I think is really interesting as well. We're going to move on to look at some inking and just what we mean by inking and how that all works. We're then going to look at Sway, and then we're going to move on to Word and just have a look at the inking functionality within Word. And then beyond that, the Teams interface. It's going to be a quick whistle-stop tour of these things, but some of them are just so exciting that I really want to share them with you. So hopefully you're all still there. Hopefully you've had a little bit of a drink and a bit of an energy boost. And what we'll do now is I am going to stop presenting here, and I'm going to switch over to my iPad and just start sharing my screen over there. So hopefully, all going well, that is what we're going to see. Fantastic.
Yes, we do.
So, that is brilliant. So I'm just going to navigate back to my home screen. And one of the first things that I want to have a go with today is Lens. We've got
one of the things we need to encourage you, Pam, first is to hashtag inbox0. That number of unread emails was obscene. Not that we were peeking at your...
I know, but Ian, that is nothing. Let
Uh,
me tell you, I have bigger inboxes.
I can imagine.
Oh, it's scary. My personal Gmail is alarming. I just never started the whole cleaning it out thing, and if you don't do it from the start,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
it.
I'm a big inbox0 fan. So
Oh, I love that. I admire and respect you.
thank you.
And one day I hope to be as efficient and organised as you.
Well, that's very kind.
So we've got the iPad up and running. What we have in front of us here is a beautiful edition of Wired from, I don't know when. Wired's one of my favourite magazines. And what we're going to do is we're just going to scan that.
I think one of the great things is you can see the autofocus working really well.
Yeah.
And without much difficulty. So, when we're thinking about younger learners scanning things, we know that sometimes their motor control might not be quite as refined as when they get older. So it's just brilliant that even with young people having these devices in their hands, they can still get a really good scan of the work they've done, or the Wired magazine that they've borrowed from Pam's.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't even know what this article was looking at. Technology. Some Microsoft looks to be at the top of whatever it is. Anyway, that's a total fluke. So now that I've confirmed that, I just want to go show you the little menu that pops up in Lens on the right hand side, because this is where I get really genuinely excited. So what you'll notice here is that I can use the inking functionality direct from that little menu. So I'm now on my Apple Pencil and I can start to draw attention to things and just, I could contribute to this drawing quite nicely there. But I'm using the inking functionality. I can highlight things. This could very easily be a poem that I've, done a scan of. I used to be an English teacher at one point in my life. I would have highlighted similes and metaphors and imagery. I'm sure you will all have your own classroom experience to bring to this and what you would use that for. You got different coloured pens as well. You could get really creative with your inking. But once you've done that, then that's now a digital file complete with the inking, and that can be shared back to pupils for feedback on a piece of work. It can be, saved into an evidence folder for that pupil if you're gathering evidence of their learning. Could be really powerful in the primary for gathering attainment evidence and achievement evidence, and just marking it up and sharing it into one of the suites, one of the tools. One of the things, though, that I think is just so exciting about this, and I hope it's going to work. It doesn't work all the time, but if we click, no, not there. If we click done, then you'll notice that I've got another little menu pop up. So this is where we would export it. This is where we would share it. But the thing that excited me more than anything was that I've taken this Wired magazine from, 10 years ago. I've taken a photo of it. It's now digital. I've inked on top of it. And what I can do, hopefully, is open Immersive Reader and bring the benefits of, it's artificial intelligence here, isn't it? We're scanning it, we're picking it up, we're converting it into actual words from a picture, from a scan of a magazine. And fingers crossed, unbelievable. We've got this now in Immersive Reader, so we can, play it. You won't be able to hear that. And we can obviously use the reading preferences, use the filters for, people who need it's not actually letting me choose the filter. Oh, it's a bit delayed. It is now. So, yeah, think about what we just did there. Super powerful. An Office Lens bringing that to the table. So I'm sure you can think of lots of practical ways that you would use that in your classroom. Just want to point out with the I'm going to try the long press live. This is what else did you call it, Ian?
Press and hold.
Press and hold. Yeah, so I'm doing the press and hold now live, but on OneDrive, you can see that we have Lens integrated there into the quick actions menu that drops down. So we could just scan that same document, open up the camera, and there we go. We're able just to bring Lens to the table again and go through that whole process, but from OneDrive. So what we're finding is that Lens, as though it's an app in its own right, is also integrated into other parts of the system, which is just superb. One of the things that I wanted to show you, the next, it's a whistle-stop tour of some of these apps, but I just wanted to mention the fact that Sway works quite well in the browser. So hopefully I'm going to go to Edge. I'm hoping that I'm still logged into Sway. No, I'm not. I'm hoping it'll pick me up. Hopefully. I'm not signed in. Right. I'm not signed into Sway. Wait a minute. I've got my password. I'm quite excited now.
Oh no. You need your .sch.uk bit on the end.
What did I do there? Did I go out of? Oh, here we go. I'm in.
Hey.
Right. So here we go. This is from a school, right? This is an example of a Sway. I'm not actually signed into it, right? So I'm going to abandon this because it's going to stop me. It's going to stop. I'm going to have to share my password and all that on the screen recording. Yeah. So I'm going to stop doing that. But the thing.
I think what you've really shown there, though, is with the Sway, it displays really beautifully on the iPad device. And if you think about, what many parents and families are accessing at home, you can see that is a good experience. And they've got the option as well to customize it. And you've shown us Immersive Reader. There's the options to be able to use that as well. So lots and lots of scope there.
And this was a nice example actually of using a Sway. So schools always trying to think of kind of creative ways to use these tools. A standards and quality report that sits in Word and is printed out and sent out, not that dynamic. Who's the standards and quality report for? Is it for our bosses in the education centre, or actually should it highlight the life and work of our school for parents and pupils and staff alike? So this example here from Bankery Primary School a few years ago, just bringing together images and videos and Twitter feeds. And there's a little video there as part of that standards and quality report that you can use again next year. Just duplicate it, use it again,
Is it fair to say you can take a dull document and make it pretty exciting?
I think that's quite a good way to put it, Ian, if I'm honest.
And I love how you can get Edge on the iPad. And the benefit of having Edge on the iPad and Edge on the desktop is you can be signed in across all of the browsers, so you can easily transfer by using that send to devices function from one device to another. And you can, you got not quite full functionality, but not far off the full desktop experience, which is great.
Again, really advocating for that earlier on. Worth getting Edge, worth signing into Edge. Sign in with your Glow account, access it on any device. You can, save your bookmarks, save your passwords, and again, send content to the different devices. So Immersive Reader built into Edge as well. Huge benefit for learning. Browse a website, Immersive Reader's there, and of course
the big one is the passwords, as you said. I have got Edge on my phone as well, so if I ever need to quickly do something and I've not got my iPad with me, then I can jump on my phone and still have that same experience. So it's giving me a browser on the phone that I can use for my school-based stuff and other browsers for my life.
Yeah, and what I should have done before the session is be signed into it. I just somehow must have come out in the course of the session. So quickly, just want to jump into Word there and just show you. So this is not using Word through Office. Oh, I'm going to stop myself jumping into Word. Before we do that, I'm going to show you Office and just how easy it is to create. So you'll notice here in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the Create button. I showed you this on screenshots, but just want to show you how well it works. So one app, one sign-in. I'm logged in. You'll see there, what account are we on? We're on my Glow account, but I can jump to my Tablet Academy account just as easily. And then back to my Glow account. So I'm just going to the icon there in the top left-hand corner, I'm switching between the two accounts. And now from the create button in the bottom right, I can create a new Word document. I can also scan, remember, Lens is integrated, but I can create a blank document, be working in it. I can go to the top right-hand corner. I can save it to OneDrive, and that will enable me to share it with anyone. Obviously, that's saving to Tablet Academy. I've got the...
I'm going to strongly encourage Pam here to be using good names with her document naming. This naughtiness of saving stuff is just document. I mean, I know she's a busy lady, but you can see that with the locations in terms of where to save it. You've got that ability to be able to keep your personal documents, your work documents, school documents. You can keep all of those separate, and that's a really nice way of working, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So share option, choose your OneDrive, what OneDrive you're saving it to. That will then affect how you share it and who you share it with. But as Ian says, nice separation between personal life, work life. I'm getting them all a bit messed up just now, and I need to start naming my documents more. But you are correct. I've probably got about 500 document ones in there. Again, inking. We've got the pencil in hand. We're going to go to draw, and we're just going to. Oh, this happened to me earlier. Okay, we're having a draw fail. What happened to me earlier on this was I needed to go. I'm just going to see if this is the case. I needed to go into my settings, and I needed to find my pencil settings, and I needed to deselect and reselect that. For some reason that worked for me earlier. Don't even know if it's a tip or if it actually does affect what we're doing here. I'm just going to open up Word again. We'll open up a different document. We'll go to draw, and then hopefully, yes, you can see my pen.
So if your pen does sit idle for a little while, doing an action like you've just done there helps reconnect the pen. Another way of doing that is you can take the lid off the pen and just pop it back into the iPad. That will re-establish the connection, and then you can just carry on. But effectively doing any action that tells the iPad and the pen they're still friends and talking to each other. If you haven't used it for a little while, that can happen. Especially as I know, Pam, you are teched up with loads of gadgets. So big Apple fan.
Obviously, we've got a document here. This is not a learning document, it's a standard document. But just to show you, we could highlight, we could, draw attention to bits. We could use a good old-fashioned tick. I mean, who doesn't love a tick? So add in a tick or two, and then obviously that becomes part of the document, and we can share that on. Great for adding feedback. You've also got the comment feature, of course, for feedback, more official feedback. But sometimes just that, it might be a relaxing experience, just going through, using the touch device, marking your work the old school way.
Drawing a smiley face on it, big ticks, big circles. That's the workflow, isn't it?
That's it. It's our teacher workflow, I think. It's one we've been used to, and we can still do that, but we don't have to carry big. Remember the days we used to carry big piles of? People still do that?
Nah. Well, yes, they do, but we're having them move away.
No more big piles of jotters to take home. This is, this is natively what we do as educators. I think when we're marking up, we're used to marking up. Business people do it to draw attention to documents and things, but as educators, it's part of our feedback loop with pupils, isn't it? One last thing, a couple of things actually. We mentioned Planner. Just want to show you that very quickly. What you can do here is just press the plus button to create a new plan. So we might call this, let's think of a good one, Staff Night Out. Always important to create a plan for a staff night out. So this could be like your big Christmas event. Let's just have a little look at Planner. It's not one that we would normally cover, but because I've been using a lot of these kind of project management solutions, for me, this is a really, really useful app. And actually, a lot of schools I've been working with are starting to use things like Trello to manage their projects and just make that productivity a little bit easier. You got these things called buckets. they're just kind of columns of to-do lists, basically. But you create them, give them a name. I mean, that probably won't. I'll maybe call this one transport. Just give it a name, and then you can essentially add tasks to those lists. So just add in a task. You can add people to the task and tag people, and you can give it a date of when it's due. Just handy, all integrates with the full system, emails, notifications, people know what they've got to do, integrated with their calendars, and could really help.
It's certainly something I've encouraged young people to use in terms of managing their different subjects. If they're in secondary school, but maybe you're doing a school project in primary, there's an opportunity there to look at a bit of project management as well. You know, what are our main themes that are going to need to be managed, and what are the jobs, who's going to do the jobs, and when are they going to do them by? I had seen, Pam, and you know, if you're going to touch on this, then don't let me jump on ahead, but you had the to-do app as well on your home screen there. I'm a big fan of this app. You can have your own individual personal lists, or you have the ability to be able to create lists which are shared with other people. I have some digital leaders, and I have a digital leaders task list. They have this app on their iPads. I add to the list. You know, I want a new website. I get them to make a website. I want something designed. I tell them design this. You know, and they go away and design it, and then they let me know when it's done. So, you know, for that group of children, I have lots of ideas of things. Someone needs a help with their projector. Somebody wants to understand how to make better use of their iPad, or wants to chat to one of the digital leaders about a new app. I add those tasks to our digital leaders shared to-do list, and they can crack on with the tasks when they want to. And you know, it's just about finding that tool that's going to work in the context that you're working in. And you can, you know, set things to be reminded at particular times, due dates. Does it repeat? You know, is it something that happens? So we've got every Friday our digital leader hangout in the digital den happens, and they come along with their lunches, and we talk all things tech. So we make that happen every Friday. So yeah, really nice tool to use as well. Great.
Welcome questions. Always welcome your feedback on sessions like this, and on, you know, how we can design the sessions around what you need. Did we pitch this right? Could you have been doing a bit more of something else? We're always happy to learn, keep learning, and develop all these sessions on that same kind of iterative process. It's all about designing around your needs. So yeah, brilliant to get feedback.
Thank you so much, Pam, for leading today's session. I know you put in a powerhouse of work to make it happen. Niall and I have been really fortunate to be able to kind of tag along and support that, both in the chat and a little bit of input from me. But you know, thank you so much, and you know, thanks for everyone for joining us, of course.
Thank you, and thanks to Dan and Niall for being there as well, supporting this. Thank you, Ian, for joining us. It was really nice to see you in the end.
Yeah, well done, Dan, and
enjoy your evening.